Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Landy Lodge. It is so good to be back. Before we get into today's amazing topic, I've got some amazing theories I want to cover, some I want to share, but none of this would be possible without the amazing sages of the lodge. And I know as of late, I've been putting their names up for the viewing. I don't have access to that file right now. I will get into that in a minute. But before we roll into anything, I want to give a major shout out to the sages of the lodge, starting with Brady Burleson, Lands of Masters, Seaman, King Sanu, Billy the Kid Lawrence, Grey Goose Gummy Bears, Lamb, Gaseous Snake, Jan Van S, DJ Ghoul, Corey Sarakis, Jordan Krupka, Mookie Orpheus Joshua, David Freeze, Scott Castellano, Jillian Yason, Shane Driscoll, Corey Barchat, Nick Taborski, Kevin McBride, AJ Wilhite, Michael Fay, and Brendan Abrams. What an absolutely wild bunch. Sages of the Lodge for you, ladies and gentlemen. Can't thank them enough. Wouldn't be here without them. Look, I'm just going to come out with it. We're talking all about the black box today. I've got a lot that I want to say. But again, I just want to thank all of you who are coming out to this podcast episode. For those of you who may not be in the loop or in the know, I was in the direct path of Hurricane Ian, which recently happened. It ravaged through my neighborhood, destroyed my yard, but I am happy to report that myself, the lady of the lodge, and our dog Kobe are all 100% okay. The house withstood minimal damage, and as you could see, the lodge is still standing. Things were a little bumpy without any power and stuff for a few days, but within the first few days, we got power back, we got water back. Thing is, we still don't have internet. I've been working my day job out of the library, and I thought that's where I'd be uploading this episode, but yesterday I decided enough is going to be enough. I went out and purchased my own hotspot. Look, it's not the greatest connection in the world. I can't be doing these podcasts live. I can't stream any games on it, but it gets the job done. It lets me work from home, and it's going to let me upload this episode. Secondly, I originally wanted this episode to go up today being Saturday, but due to unforeseen circumstances today, I had to record this episode really late. I originally wanted to record it around 7:30. It's now about 11:30 at night, and that's what I'll be recording. So I do apologize if I look a little tired or maybe sound a little tired. I assure you, I feel great, and I'm excited to talk about this. But yeah, without further ado, look, first things first, there's so much that we have to talk about, whether it be the black box's involvement in Lushu's role, what the Master's plan for it is. There's so much. But I really think where we have to start is examining the black box and examining its appearance. Because again, we all know the Master's famous line, the truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear. Now, I'll be happy to say the Kingdom Hearts community is not short of black box theories. I mean, it's a mystery hanging right in front of our faces. It's such low-hanging fruit that plenty of people have taken their stab at it. I'll be referencing a few of these theories throughout today's episode. And feel free to share your favorite black box theories in the comments below. All right. So first things first. The first thing we have to draw ourselves to would be the latches on the front. So there's 7 of them, right? Now, it's not news to anybody. 7, common number in Kingdom Hearts. On the side, we have 3, and on the other side, we have 3, giving us a total of 13. Now, it's a recurring number, not just in the series, but on this chest as well. If you look at the emblem at the top, there are 13 spikes that stick out. Now, do recall on that top emblem, right? There are 13 spikes, but 3 of them are particularly big or noteworthy. Now, take a look at the chest right here, the black box itself. If you notice on the front, the big latch in the middle, notice how it points to a heart-like contraption beneath it. And then if we look at the side of the black box, you'll see that the middle latch points to a heart-like contraption as well. Now, I'd have to fill in a lot of blanks to tell you what all of that means, but we not only see the recurring theme of 13, but there seems to be this idea that there are 3 prominent points, whether it be the middle latches pointing to the hearts on the box, or whether it be the 3 points that stick out from the emblem on top. Now, of course, the first thing to come to my head would be the 13 Darknesses. Now, Violin, he's a speedrunner. I had him on the podcast a number of episodes ago. He was a great guest, and he discussed his personal black box theory and connecting it to the willful darknesses, I suppose. Or I think the willful darknesses might technically be the ones that are born in people's hearts, kind of like what we saw happen with Balder. But let's just call them the ancient darknesses, I suppose. That 13-pieced fracture being that the Master of Masters so often references. Oh, and by the way, those of you who sent me messages, sent me your theories, sent me your questions, as usual, I'm going to get to all those at the end of the episode here. And I just want to thank you guys again, before we continue, for reaching out to me with your questions and theories, because I'm going to miss the live audience interaction here in today's episode, but you guys doing that really goes a long way. But anyway, immediately, I start thinking about the 13 Darknesses when I see the number 13 repeated on this chest with the 3 prominent points. Now, what I can't seem to wrap my head around yet would be what those 3 prominent points might be. Top of my head, you just think something like Sora, Yozora, Master of Masters, something along those lines. But I don't have anything quite concrete for that yet. I'm going to get into some of my more concrete observations and concrete theories as we get further into the episode. But I really just want to take note of everything we can see on the black box before we start speculating what could possibly be inside. Because we know Nomura, the man is a designer through his skin, his blood, his bones. There's some kind of hint somewhere on this box. Whether we're able to see it or not, I don't know. But I know when it's all said and done, and when we know what's in this box, there's something on it right now that we can see. It's just upon us to connect those dots. So we've covered the 13 latches. We've covered the 3 prominent points. I guess the only other thing you'd have to point out is, black and white are very common colors in the series. We see more black and silver here. But the red is interesting, right? We know what to associate blue with. We know what to associate yellow with. Red is sort of a newer color that's being played with a little bit in the series, whether we look at the eyes of the nightmares or whether we look at one of Yozora's eyes. The whole use of red as a motif is very new. So new it may not even be concrete, but that remains to be seen. The next part I want to get to is the part that so many people talk about, and that's what we could see right here. The key super, or if you could see it, it's an X, which typically stands for key, or kai, the meaning is the same, and then super. This is where all the theories, in my opinion, get wild. And I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a big portion of what we're going to focus on here today. So, if you guys recall from Birth by Sleep, Xehanort explained the letter X to us, which is referred to often as key. That it is the most ancient letter and that it refers to endings, death, he even said. If I'm not mistaken, death is its own line and it's in quotes. So as to heavily imply that death and end is really what this means. Now, I know HMK did a theory on this, or it was part of his, a much larger theory, was translating what this meant. If I'm correct, I believe in his translation, he broke it down to being the last above all, and then with the box containing hope, he said the last hope above all, which is definitely a translation that fits. I just think there's so many possible translations, and I want to go through a number of them with you all. And in my opinion, I think there might actually be some better translations that can give a little bit more insight. But this right here, this key super, this is where everybody's ideas seem to come from. And trust me, we're going to get on it. Again, let's just point out while we're zoomed in on it, you can see the 3 prominent points I was bringing up before, how we have the 13 with the 3 prominent, just like the latches. Just want to say that's much more clearer in sight here, just in case you weren't able to quite see what I was talking about before. But as for the translations, I want to do something quite fun. Let me just check my notes right here, make sure I got everything here. Okay, just want to make sure I got everything. All right, moving on. Let's do some translations. Now, let's get this pulled up. And I think, there we go. Okay, there it is. So I'm going to do this right here with everybody chilling. And I've pulled up 4 different translation sites because I want us to check, get second opinions, get second perspectives. Want to make sure we're sourcing all of this. So we're going to bounce between 4 different sites and see what the Latin to English translations for super are. As we know, a lot of the things involving the Master of Masters, especially the foretellers, has connections to the Latin language. And again, if you're not new here, you're used to me saying this all the time. But just in case you are new here, all of the foretellers, their names can be drawn back to the Latin word for the 7 deadly sins. For example, ava is short for avaritia, which in Latin means greed. Now, I don't even know if you're supposed to roll your tongue. I don't know why I did that, but it sounds good. Please don't mistake that for intelligence. Anyway, so as we can see, this is from translate.com. Super gets translated into over. If we go to translate.yandex.com, super from Latin gets translated into over. Seems to be pretty consistent between the sites. And again, it says super on the box. If we remember, key super. If we keep the Latin theme going here, right now we have key, which could mean death or ending in Xehanort's own words. Death over, ending over. We'll get into that a little bit more as we continue to flesh this out. But then we go to onlinetranslationpro.com, and I found this to be interesting. They translate super as in general. That throws a bone into everything, doesn't it? But here's the good news. I think we can ignore it, because here's Google Translate. They also translate super as over, which gives us 3 out of 4 translates it this way. And what I like about Google Translate is they show you down here all the most common translations, synonyms of what it could mean. So if we look, super, translating from Latin to English, among frequency, and if we see here what this chart means, indicates how often a translation appears in public documents, we can see that upon, on, over, and above are the most common translations for super between Latin to English. So again, we're dealing with key super. And we're seeing a constant theme of above, right? Whether it be upon, or on, or over, or above. We're seeing the most common translations have to do with the concept of being above. Not necessarily in like a morality sense, just literally like upon, on, over, above. So death and above. So look, we all know Kingdom Hearts gets its wackiness from Final Fantasy, not vice versa. People these days seem to think it's Final Fantasy gets its wackiness from Kingdom Hearts. Couldn't be more wrong. When I see key super, and I put these 2 words together, death and above, I can't help but think of Final Fantasy VII, where Jenova, who alongside Sephiroth is essentially the main villain of Final Fantasy VII, is referred to as the calamity from the sky, right? Calamity from the sky. Death over. Key being death, super meaning above, over. I think the best translation, and we can take this many different ways, but in my opinion, I think it might mean death from above. Now, where that takes us, that could take us to a whole new world. We'll go back to these translations in a second, but I think it's more likely that key super refers to as death from above. And there's, just to do a little bit of further fact checking here, if we notice the S in super down here is lowercase. Now, I know a lot of people, and we'll talk about the master of master theories, they like to look at super as short for superbia, right? Because just like ava is short for avaritia, being greed, and ased is short for acedia, being sloth, a lot of people think this super is in reference to superbia, being short for that. I think that's very possible. But here's why I think death from above is a better translation. And again, I'll get into exactly what it could mean too. If you notice, the S in super here is lowercase. And now, if you think that I'm just being a little bit picky, if you notice, and we'll go between different translations here, if you capitalize the S, it changes the translation more often than not. Here you see super went to in general, but if we go lowercase, it's over. Also, if super was to be a reference to somebody's name, that S would be capitalized. So that's why, even though, again, I think this having to do with the master and superbia is definitely viable. Who knows? Could even be an unknown seventh foreteller, right? And maybe they come from above. But with that S being lowercase, I'm more inclined to believe that it's not referring to a name, right? Or that it's not referring to a translation that would be more along the lines of in general, as opposed to with a lowercase like we have on the box, which just translates to over, above, upon, etc. Now, my reasons for thinking death from above might be the best translation goes a lot further than it just having overlap with Final Fantasy VII. Let's consider, and might be a little hard for me to articulate this. So if we recall, right, the ending of the secret movie of Kingdom Hearts 3, the Master of Masters places a heart over the moon, right? An unreality. He's in Quadratum, he's in the world of fiction, he places a heart over the moon. Now, I don't know exactly what that's supposed to mean just yet, but if we recall the last time, quote unquote, Kingdom Hearts was summoned, you think about things like the Keyblade War. Like every time Kingdom Hearts is summoned, it's got something to do with like mass death, right? It takes a war. It takes a clash to summon Kingdom Hearts. I know Kingdom Hearts is and it definitely is, it is a, I don't know if I want to call it a benevolent force, you know? But Kingdom Hearts very much is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad actor. But it's funny to notice that it mostly shows up during like calamity events, whether it be any Keyblade War. Even if you want to consider Ventus and Vanitas' clash a sort of Keyblade War, it takes this sort of mega clash to bring about Kingdom Hearts. And maybe this is why in Daybreak Town, the Master of Masters says summoning Kingdom Hearts is forbidden. Might be forbidden for that very reason. Is that in order for it to show up, something so drastic needs to be taking place that it needs to interfere. And again, that's a theme you see overlap in Final Fantasy VII, especially when they rope in the compilation. I don't know if we have any Dirge or Cerberus fans in the house, but think about Omega. Omega can be summoned from like mass death, mass murder, mass killing. That could be enough to summon Omega to trigger it to think the planet is in danger. But anyway, let's keep it on Kingdom Hearts. Sticking with the Kingdom Hearts moon that, again, typically seems to show up during calamitous events or events of mass killing, I can't help but think it's possible, and again, we'll get into many theories about the box, but I can't help but think it's possible that the black box may allow the master to bring about Kingdom Hearts. And again, this would go with this translation of death from above. Because again, Xehanort's own words, key, that X, translates to death and endings. And if we recall, Xehanort had a very cyclical philosophy, right? Darkness was an ending, but he also saw endings as a new beginning. Again, he had like a cyclical philosophy. The idea that, yes, darkness would bring about an ending, but with that ending comes a new beginning. And you see, that's sound with what the master believes, right? Like he says to Ira in back cover, you're not going to stop light from expiring. You have to focus on what comes after, right? Little fatalistic. But it's that same understanding. When the master heard about the light expiring, he didn't think that was going to be end all be all, game over. No. Rather, he saw it as, hey, let's focus on what comes after, because that's the more important part. That's when light is reborn and we can rebuild. So I just wanted to point out that both Xehanort and the Master seem to have this cyclical understanding of light and darkness, that an ending can be a new beginning. So I wanted to talk about some of the other possible translations. And again, maybe I'll swing back around on that when we're answering questions, but I don't want to keep it just about what I think. I want to, explore some of the other ideas. The other one that I could think of, and let's pull this up right here. The other one that I could think of would be death be upon you, right? This idea of death. Again, that's the one I feel most confident about. That X, that key means death, or at least end. Like most charitably, it means ending. But death, I think, is more likely, right? Especially when you consider Kingdom Hearts 4, death is not only looking to be a major theme, the number 4 is a symbol. It symbolizes death in the Japanese culture. So again, that X meaning death, I think that's a layup personally. I think the X, the key, directly translating to death, with Kingdom Hearts 4 in mind and knowing what we know, I think right there, I think that's a little bit of a giveaway. Not a giveaway, but I think it's the most likely scenario, especially since we'll probably know a whole lot more about this box in Kingdom Hearts 4. And Missing Link too. I think Missing Link will show us a few things about it. But I think another translation, and let's pull these up here, could be death be upon you, right? Because upon seems to come up here too. Again, who knows what's in this box or what it triggers? We know it's going to trigger something big. So death be upon you is another translation that I have always liked. But let's see. I'll put a little B-roll on while I look at some of the other translations that I wrote down because I didn't want to have to remember them. Let's see. So Death of Pride was another one. Death of Pride or End of Pride. So here's the thing, right? The Master of Masters, there's so much about him that we don't know. Now, we see the motif of naming all of the foretellers after the 7 deadly sins, but of course, one is missing, pride. We have one for every deadly sin, but pride is missing. If X means death, and death and pride go together, you have to consider that maybe, I don't know what the Master's plan here could be. Maybe this is his plan for either killing the darkness most associated with pride, or maybe killing all the darknesses too. Like, for example, what makes me think of that? The book Dante's Inferno, right? And there's a lot of sort of literature about the 7 deadly sins that pays into these ideas. There's sort of this idea that all the sins are orbiting pride, right? You see this in Full Metal Alchemist too, right? All of the sins in one way or another seem to be circling pride. Pride is kind of seen as this like eldest sin, or it's like the core sin. Again, which would make sense for the Master to be associated with that name. But you also have to wonder, is like maybe it's the lead darkness. Maybe among these 13 darknesses, maybe there's like a head darkness, right? And maybe that head darkness could either be summoned by the opening of that box or could be contained in that box to begin with. The other thing I was thinking, right? There's another little theory that I have about this. What if, because we hear the Master talk about that the darkness is formless, right? And so long as it's formless, you're not going to be able to defeat it. And currently as we stand, we know we had those 7 darknesses that were defeated in the Keyblade War. We know we have the 4 darknesses that were sealed by player. And we know we have these sort of 2 vacant darknesses that are kind of floating around, doing their thing, talking to Maleficent, trying to make things happen. I do think all 13 darknesses pop up again one day. But here's one thing I figured. What if in the box is a vessel that can hold all 13 darknesses, right? Key super, death, pride, end of pride, death of pride. And again, with pride maybe being this like lead darkness, which again is something we've seen in a lot of literature before. And, aside from literature, anime and graphic novels and stuff. But anyway, it's a trope that we've seen in fiction time and time again, especially when reflecting on things like the 7 deadly sins. But I wonder that sometimes too, if it were to be referring to pride, because, the super's right there and the Latin translations are all over the master and the foretellers and everything, right? It makes you wonder if this is some sort of plan to either seal the darkness or taking it to that next step and making sure it's truly rid of the world. I don't know. I've got a few more. Let's see. I know some of them had to do with pride. See, I've got end of pride, end from above. So at the end of the day, let's get those notes out of there. I think the friendliest, the most likely translation, again, I'm going to go through it again. I know I sound a bit like a broken record. The repetition is the hammer of knowledge, as I was taught. We have that letter X, that key, which means death. In Xehanort's words, death, endings, right? Let's go with death. It got its own line. It was in quotes, especially when you consider that symbol and the number 4 in Japan reference death. So I think death is the most likely direct translation. So we have death, above, over, on, upon, death from above. That would be, if I'm trying to decode the black box here, that would be my prediction for what this key super means. Now, what that death from above could be, it could be a combination of anything, okay? And that's what we're going to maybe try and get into, maybe explore some ideas. It could be a singularity event that combines reality and unreality. Here, I wrote this down. This is if I were to guess, going into this podcast, this would be my current hypothesis. That opening the black box would trigger a singularity event, sparking either the fusion of reality and unreality, or the dissolving of both in place of a new world that the Master of Masters can control. Perhaps one without darkness, which again, seems to be his adversary. Darkness seems to be his adversary. Oh, another theory. Before we get a little further into this, another theory I had. What if the Master actually wants to absorb all the darknesses into himself? If this super on the box were to refer to the Master, I wonder if that's a possibility too. But anyway, getting back to what we're yapping about. Yeah, so I think if I were to guess going into this, that by opening that box, and again, I've talked about this on podcasts for months now. I think like 3 months ago, I first kind of started exploring this idea. But that by opening the box, you trigger this singularity event. Now, what that singularity event means, I don't know. Again, could be a fusion of reality and unreality. Could be a dissolving of both of those so that something new can be created. It could be, and this is something I've considered, so the darkness seems to be from ancient times, right? Darkness seems to be from the same time period as the Master of Masters. What if darkness came from a being the Master of Masters used to know, right? You saw that whole chess game between light and darkness between Ericus and Xehanort, right? You'd have to imagine that's going on at an exponential scale with the Master of Masters and the darkness entity. So I have to wonder, is this just Xehanort and Ericus all over again? Are these darknesses fractured beings from a person the Master of Masters used to know? Or, because again, how do I put this? He blames the darkness for killing a lot of his friends and family. So I'm not saying this is necessarily the people he grew up around, but I think it's very possible that the master has a desire to see those friends and family he lost, right? When we think about Kingdom Hearts, right? Wouldn't it make sense that the Master of Masters would be pursuing that, trying to find a way to get his lost friends and family back? I don't know. It seems relatively plausible. But one of the other things I think about sometimes too is that there's a seventh foreteller we don't know. Now, I've explored this. I theorized that Vanitas could be a secret seventh foreteller because we know he's a darkness. We know he's got a darkness in him. But Vanitas in Latin translates to vanity, which could be a synonym for pride. So we see how that could work. Maybe opening that box summons back Vanitas, and we find out Vanitas is this ancient pride darkness, or that that spirit is inhabiting him. Hold on one second, guys. I'm going to go and get myself a little bit of water, and then we will roll right back. Okay. Hydrated and ready to go. Let's see. So yeah, sometimes I wonder if it's a hidden seventh foreteller hanging out in there. And I've theorized Vanitas, or could be a whole new character. I don't know. I just think there's something going on with Vanitas, and, the idea that we've been given 6 of the 7 deadly sins and that they're hiding one. Like, if the Master of Masters ended up being Superbia and named after pride, I don't really think that's going to surprise anybody. Kingdom Hearts loves to surprise you. But then again, we saw in Dark Road with Bragi that sometimes they do play the obvious hand. It's not always a diversion. So I guess that is equally as possible. Oh boy, okay. Let's see. Here's the other thing. This box has to have some connection to Quadratum, which is why part of me thinks some sort of fusion between reality and unreality is certainly possible. But it doesn't have to be that. As for what it could be, I don't know. But if Luxord is going to be involved, and now that we know Luxord is connected to Yozora, and if he's involved in this black box subplot, there's got to be some connection to unreality, right? Or some connection to Quadratum. Because then why else do that? And there's something else about the black box. Oh, I've got to bring this up when talking about the death from above. But Maleficent, and I'm glad we're watching this scene because we just saw her and Pete dig up Pandora's box. She says something very peculiar towards the end of the game, where she goes, she says something along the lines of, we can't find the black box because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist yet, rather. No sense in looking for something that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist yet. So what exactly triggered it back into existence? The following lines after Maleficent says, "There's a Keyblade war upon us." And again, think about this with Luxord. Zigbar sent him on a wild goose chase, even though the box wasn't going to appear until after the Keyblade war, or during. But it's important to note that, at least according to Maleficent's understanding, the box didn't exist at this point. Yet Zigbar sent Luxord out looking for it. What could his intentions possibly be? But thinking about that death from above theory I was talking about before, if a Keyblade War and the Clash of Light and Darkness and the summoning of Kingdom Hearts, if that's what blipped the box back into existence, then perhaps it really does have some connection to that. Now, we don't know for sure. Let me just be clear. We don't know for sure that the Keyblade War and the summoning of Kingdom Hearts is what allowed the box to come back into existence. But Maleficent, who is very clued in when compared to the rest of the class, when compared to the rest of the cast, she's the one who says, can't find it. If it doesn't exist, there's a Keyblade War upon us. Back to back. So that's why, again, I think that's the best hypothesis we have. The box didn't exist. The Keyblade War happened. Kingdom Hearts was summoned. The box came back. At least it's the most charitable interpretation we could give that so far. So I not only think this box is connected to Quadranum, I think it could even be connected to Kingdom Hearts itself. You know what I mean? Now, I've seen a theory thrown around, or the idea thrown around, especially, and this is why it's a good idea worth considering, especially considering that Kingdom Hearts deals with things like data and computers and even things like data worlds, Let's scoot on over to here. A black box, when speaking, like, if we're going to talk geek talk for a minute, and I think HMK's theory discussed this a little bit, but in layman's terms, the black box, basically, there's an observer and black box paradigm where the observer takes in information and then stores that information over here in the black box. And then it creates this feedback loop between the two entities, an observer and a place to store data. Now, it's an appealing idea to think of the gazing eye as the observer, and that this black box would be like this computer black box storing all the data. But technically that would be a book of prophecies. Now look, could be a book of prophecies in the chest. I don't know. But the problem I guess I have with using the gazing eye as an observer for this end-all be-all black box is the Master of Masters himself even says that the gazing eye doesn't see everything. It's just a general idea. But the idea still definitely works. It's just that we have to remember that the gazing eye is not this. It just gives the master a very broad idea of what happens. And I think that's part of his plan, to maybe throw off darkness. But hey, interesting to think about. So there's something else I thought about. Let me see. Do I have... I don't think I have it, but... Sometimes I wonder if Ava's in the box. Now, this is not a very strong theory. I really don't have much evidence for it. But I guess before I start getting into your guys' questions and your guys' theories, I wanted to maybe bring that up. Wouldn't it be eerie if Ava was in the box or her heart was in the box or something? This way, that last scene where they're all in the Keyblade graveyard technically is a reunion between all of them. It would be crazy, but, worth bringing up. Let me see. So let me bring this back, because I see I had a little bit of note about this. So this black box, of course, we see the number 13. We see the 3 prominence. Here's another idea I had. Another theory I had. Little theory of mine before we dish into some of the audience notes. Which I'm going to need another water. We're pushing up on midnight, folks. Pushing up on midnight over here. But anyway. What was I going to talk about? Just talked about maybe Ava being... Oh, that's right. Okay. So, what if the 13 latches on this chest had to do with the 13 darknesses? What if it's the master's plan to use this chest as a vessel to store all 13 darknesses, then he'll destroy the vessel, thus destroying darkness? Hear me out. Random crackpot theory. I'd like to maybe elaborate on it more one day, but it just popped in my head. What if, as we know, the master is looking for vessels? What if the master achieves finding a vessel for each darkness, getting all 13 vessels, as well as the darknesses and the vessels, into the box, right? Now, all 13 darknesses with their vessels are in the box, and then it's the master's plan to almost remove themselves from the darkness and escape. But here's where the master comes in. It's a trap, and he traps Sora. Remember, the master needed the Keyblade War and the Darkseeker Saga to happen. Why? Well, we have to look at the conclusion and think that the conclusion of Kingdom Hearts 3 has to play into the master's plan. Sora has the ancient Keyblade, and he's in Quadratum, right? Those are the biggest consequences. Those are the biggest changes to the world at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. Some other things going on too, but Sora getting a hold of that ancient Keyblade and being transferred to Quadratum really are the two big changes and results of the Darkseeker Saga. What if the master traps Sora and his friends in the box with himself and basically uses Sora to open Kingdom Hearts, to get them out of the chest, just like they use Kingdom Hearts at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 to close it from the other side and then hop back through into their reality? Could be the same thing when they're in this box. Because it seems like Kingdom Hearts can be summoned in numerous places. It's just a matter of having the right rituals, the right pieces in place. What if he gets all 13 vessels with their darknesses in the box? They find a way to separate them, and then the only way out is for Sora to open Kingdom Hearts, but that will fall into the master's super plan. Step 1 is get rid of darkness. Step 2 might be open Kingdom Hearts. I don't know. Random theory, random idea I was playing with. You guys let me know what you think about that. But I'm looking over my notes here, and I'm out of water, but I'm looking over my notes here, and it looks to me like I covered everything I initially wanted to talk about. If anything comes back to my head, I'll be sure to bring it up. But you guys left me some amazing questions, so let me pull them up real quick. Righty. But yeah, you guys will be happy to know we're going to get right back into the theory videos too. I'm not going to let that slow me down whatsoever. I know Dark Road was a little bit ago, but I still have some Xehanort theories I want to discuss. I think there's still a lot to talk about with Xehanort, so I definitely want to get into that. All right, let's pull up these comments. I know I had a few people reach out to me on Twitter. Let me get that pulled up and drop into the links below. Make sure you're following me on all the platforms, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all of them. Yeah, support your boy. All right, where's my homie at? Right here. Oh, boy. Ooh, a lot of these I didn't look at. I purposely really tried not to look at them. I went down the list, gave you all hearts because I love y'all, but I really tried not to look at them. I peeked at a few, I got to admit. But I tried not to look at them. So I'm going to be looking at a lot of your messages and theories for the first time. So hang tight. Let me get some more water. And then we'll get right back to it. All right. We are back. Thank you for waiting. I would put up some of those what do you call them? We got to get this back how we had it. There we go. I would put some of those like be right back screens that I've made, but I mean, I'm only gone for like 10 seconds. So I feel like it's not worth it to pull up like a whole song. Okay. Let's get into your guys' questions. All right, starting with, Blake Husky, who says, I feel like quadratum is in the box, but still I don't know how to word my question. All right, so thinks quadratum is in the box. I've thought about maybe it's like a portal, right? That it's very possible that the black box could be a portal between reality and unreality. And that, if we are to believe that the super on the box could refer to the master, Superbia or what have you, it's very possible that opening the box might be what gets the master from unreality to reality. Because again, we're yet to see how he specifically traverses between the realms. But hey, I think that's worth thinking about. We know the box is connected to quadratum somehow. Whether it's actually in the box or a portal between the two, we'll see. SMH says, I am with the group that think that inside the box is a backup of Daybreak Town and all those Keyblade wielder kids. Also hope your Wi-Fi comes back soon. I hope my Wi-Fi comes back soon too. Again, I got my potato 5G hotspot over here so I can upload this thing and work from home. But I miss streaming. I miss doing live podcasts. I miss hanging out with you guys and really having this conversation live back and forth. We'll get back there. Won't be long now. We'll get back there. But let's keep moving. Oh, like SMH said here. Inside the box is a backup of Daybreak Town and all those Keyblade wielder kids. This is what I was saying before about imagine Ava was in the box. And imagine that's where all those gifted wielders, I don't know. Who knows? Quien sabe, as they say. Shadow Flare says, so when did the black box disappear/reappear? This is what I'm talking about. My understanding is that there was a world line split back in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. Whereas in the Kingdom Hearts Key world line, the Keyblade War happened in the Age of Fairy Tales and the light was fated to perish during Kingdom Hearts 3. Oh, this is a long one. And whereas in the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross world line, the Keyblade War was avoided in the Age of Fairy Tales, and it instead happened during Kingdom Hearts 3. There's more to light than meets the eye. Okay? In this two world line, I don't think the world lines got quite split like that. I think it's like at least with Sora's case, I felt like it was a grandfather paradox that, oh wait, you know what? I'm thinking like timeline, world line, separate. Let me finish your thought. Then I'll spew my nonsense. Lushu brought the black box over to Kingdom Hearts Union Cross's version of Daybreak Town, when he himself traveled there to avoid the Keyblade War over in the Kingdom Hearts Key world line. Now we're talking. Before Lushu left Keyblade Graveyard in the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross world line, he hid the black box while in Brain's form and body. After that, he traveled to the Kingdom Hearts Key world line. I lost you for a second. After that, he traveled to the Kingdom Hearts Key world line, possibly casting off Brain's body as he does so, allowing Brain to land in Scala sometime after Lushu found his next vessel. Oof, it's from drinking water too fast. Later on, Sora abused the power of waking to overwrite the Book of Prophecy's fate as written in the Key world line. Oh, interesting. So you're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, Shadow Flare, that when Sora rewrote Fate, he really just carried everybody over into the Union Cross world line. Whereas before that event, we were in the Key world line. Ooh, that could be something. Interesting. So, let's finish. I suspect the black box had already reappeared, as it never left the Union Cross world line once it was brought there. Just like Maleficent was saying, the box doesn't exist yet. They had to wait for the Keyblade War. And maybe Shadow Flare nailed it there. That they had to move from the Key world line to the Union Cross world line. Let's finish. Once the Keyblade War finished, Lucio was able to unbury it and summon his old friends, Gazing Eye in hand. Excuse me. That's something. All right. Shadow Flare, that was cool. Let's move on. Master of Masters is Master. It says, this is a long shot, but what if the black box contains the Heart of Darkness? By Heart of Darkness, I refer to what I imagine the complete being that existed before it was split up. This is funny. We were talking a little bit about this too. It was like this hub, right? It was like the main hub beforehand. Let's finish this. One being whose heart was unlocked/released by the Keyblade and locked away, leaving the darkness incomplete and without the motivations of its original complete self. Now, heartless and directionless, the darkness scatters and spreads across instinctively, targeting hearts. Ooh, is this another long one? No, okay, not that long. Subconsciously wanting to find their own in the precious black box. If they would ever find it, and the darkness were to become complete once again, that it would need a hero forged through struggle, strife, and the sadness can truly shine bright enough to finally fight it off for good. Enter Sora, the chosen one, who can face the threat that lies within the black box. So that's a pretty cool idea. That the big bad is really waiting for us inside the black box, and the master really needs to kind of prepare everybody for it first. Interesting idea. The Nagito says, Maleficent thinks the Book of Prophecies is in it, but I'm fairly certain that's the least likely thing to be in the box. So I think we just have to wait for Nomura. Any conjecture is blind guesses. You're not necessarily wrong. We don't have a lot to go with, which is again why I wanted to focus a lot on what we can see, right? That's really the best we can work with. Now, Maleficent thinking the Book of Prophecies is in there. Imagine that was all it was. Let's see. MA says, I have a theory about the black box. So you see, well, in another stream, I mentioned that maybe unreality is in the box. I believe that, like the worlds in Union Cross, unreality is a world projected by the Book of Prophecies. Unreality is called a world of fiction, and fiction is a common genre in books. Maybe the Master of Masters created unreality and put it in the box. Just like the Toy Story world. Toy box. Toy box. And it had a connection to Quadratum. Toy box. Anyway. Where are you? Where are you? Also remember the box contains the way to defeat darkness. And if unreality is in the box, the Master of Masters could just place the darknesses there with no way of escaping. That would also explain how the Master of Masters and Lucio, possibly, can come and go from Quadratum as they will. That's what we still need to see. How are these guys hopping between realms? We gotta see. We gotta see. Okay, SB Wielder says, how or why do you think Lucio went from the beginning of Cage 3 to not knowing where the box was to strolling up with the box at the end? So to answer that, that's what's funny. My answer before reading some of these comments would have been that he was playing dumb and he needed to throw people off. I think now, and let me see if I can, 1 second. Yeah, it was Shadow Flare. Going with what Shadow Flare said, that we had to hop between world lines, the Key and Union Cross one? Maybe that's why. SP Wielder says, also, what role did faking his death play into that? Or did he need to die to detach his heart from his body and travel as a heart to find it? I think it was just, hey, look, I'm dying. Nah, I think he was just faking his death. How it plays into it so that the Guardians think he's dead when he's really alive? Okay. We had a few people ask me the same question. Plush Sign and Con Donahue asked me, what's in the box? Man. You know, it's funny. So many people like myself, we could tell you all day about these theories we have. Oh, it's going to merge realities. Oh, the master is going to have control and create a dreamlike utopia. Oh, you know, it's going to create a singularity, like whatever it is. We have all these theories, all of us, right? Very few of us are actually trying to tell you what's the literal thing in the box. If I were to guess what the literal thing in the box is, I'd have to go with that darkness theory. If there were to be something literal in there. And let's see. Cheesecake says, what is the box made of? Because it doesn't look like it's made of wood. I think it's made of some iron, magic, and maybe some stone. Let's give it a look. Let's really blow this up. All right. Honestly, maybe I'm crazy. It looks like it's made of stone. Definitely looks like a stone box. That's what I would say. Okay, that matches everybody here. And then my boy Corey Sarakis, a sage of the lodge, reached out on Twitter with a monster theory, which I suppose he gave me permission to share. Let me get a water. I'm not going to put on the be right back thing. I'm just gonna go get a water because this is an essay. I'm gonna need some hydration. Okay, let's read this out because this is wild. Okay. Oh, he's got two theories for us. Let's do this one. Okay. We specifically, actually, let me see if I can, let's see. I want to, yeah, perfect. All right. Let's read this out. We specifically know that Luxord, a character of the real organization and someone who knows a lot more than he's letting on, seems to know what is inside the box. He outright tells Sora it contains hope. Well, he says, I'm told that the box contains hope. That's his hearsay understanding. This sort of hinges on the premise that Luxord is in fact the driver for Yozora in the secret ending, and that he has ties to the world of unreality. I tend to think it is. Luxord's last words to Sora is that he wishes to play a game again when they're just guys. Which to me means a more complete person or somebody. That would only happen after the defeat of Luxord and he's returned to a completed being. I believe that the wild card that was given to Sora is going to be... One second, let's pull up our boy while we're at it. I believe that the wild card that was given to Sora is going to be a key item to unlocking the contents of the box. Or maybe he could flip the box in some way. Right? Could turn the tables. Or at least was a key item in his travels to the world that never was. My thoughts are that throughout Kingdom Hearts 4, Sora is going to lose. Just like we saw in Kingdom Hearts 1. He will lose his heart again. And this wild card and the box holds a copy of Sora's heart taken from some other point in time, either through the Master of Masters or Lushu's reading of the Book of Prophecies, knowing that Sora is the chosen one, and going to be one of the required vessels to contain and then eventually destroy darkness. Interesting. I think we're all the assumption that Sora is not going to be going with the Master's plans. It seems like it's entirely against something Sora would stand for. Interesting. The wild card having something to do with the box. I never thought about that. That's a really good theory. Let's get into your second one here, bud. My second theory is that Luke's sword actually is the Master of Masters. Okay. We knew that Luke's sword controls time, and the Master of Masters is a big time traveler. Well, young Xehanort's the big time guy, but in those battles with him, you are right, he does have some autonomy over time. We know that he's a gambling man, and what more is the Master of Masters' plan than a gamble? Fair. See, this makes me think a lot of the conversation I had with next-gen novelists, where we theorize, well, mostly him, this is his idea, let me be clear, theorize that Luke's sword could be from the Master's time. Getting back to it. He's risking the lives of his students and the chosen few vessels of the future in order to combat darkness. This is a gamble in my eyes. There's no guarantee that his plan would work. He's been fighting against darkness since the dawn of time, in his own words. He hasn't seen a way to eternally defeat darkness yet. This theory thinks that the box actually contains the darknesses of the player character trapped in Union Cross. You know, that's a good theory too. Whoa. I'm going to let you finish. Before I just say what you're going to say. Okay. If you're going where I think you're going, oh, dude, I think you nailed it. Anyway, let me read it. Okay, this theory thinks that the box actually contains the darknesses that the player character trapped in Union Cross. The black box is going to be opened, and the Master of Masters, or Lushu, is going to release the darknesses to take over the bodies of the vessels. I'm expecting Yozora or Riku. It's still a hope. The Master of Masters has no idea if this plan is going to work in the long run. It's his final hope in destroying the darkness and escaping to a place where it'll never find him. I was mostly on board. Let me tell you where I differ a little bit. So if you're right that those four darknesses that the player character trapped, if they're the ones in the box, how many foretellers did Lushu bring back? 4. Kingdom Hearts 4. The key, and 4 being a symbol for death. Quadratum. If your theory's right, and those 4 darknesses are in that chest, what if he just unleashes them on the foretellers again? Right? It worked the first time. That's my understanding, right? And maybe I have that a little wrong. But the 7 darknesses were in them during the whole Union Cross key back cover era. They got killed in the Keyblade War, severing off those darknesses. Now, again, I think those darknesses come back. But let's say those 7 were actually defeated. And now that we've brought the foretellers back, they're back clean slate, no darkness. But if we know that they're good enough vessels to get the job done, and those 4 darknesses are in the chest, I think it would be great for Lushu just to... There we go, round 2. Let's do it again. Which... Actually, no, I was going to go into a whole thing about, like, why did Lushu bring him back then? But that's a whole other conversation. Now, these are some cool theories, man. That was cool. Corey, Sarakis, Sage of the Lodge, crushing it. I think that's everything. I think I got everybody. I think I got everybody's questions. Let's see. Shout out to the child who said, can't wait to see you again. What up, dude? Oh boy. It's been a long day, baby. It's been a long day for me. I hear my voice cracking. Oh man. And for that buddy who reached out to me in the comment section, I can't remember his name, but he reached out about my you could tell he sees that my voice has a tendency to get hoarse when I do a lot of these podcasts and talk for a long time. When it's not 12:30 in the morning, my voice has sounded way healthier lately. I've been doing a lot of the green tea, lemon and honey, which has really been doing good work. So thanks for looking out. And again, I know maybe this podcast isn't the best example, but you'll see it. It's a marathon. It ain't a sprint. But anyway, that's going to bring us to the end, guys. At least as far as everything I wanted to discuss, the black box really is, it's a huge mystery. And it's not going to cease to be a huge mystery so long as we're in phase 2 of Kingdom Hearts. I think it opens in Kingdom Hearts 4. I think in Kingdom Hearts 4 we open the black box. I think it finally happens. Maybe we don't open it, but we're going to know a hell of a lot more about it. And let's be honest, it's tough to guess what's in this box. If I were to, again, for months now, I've been saying, for all you Naruto fans out there, that the Master's plan is Project Suki no Me. And in layman's terms, what that means is, at the end of the Master's plan, he's a godlike figure that can control the outcome of the universe. Similar to what Xehanort wanted, right? And I've said this too for a while, that I think a lot of what the Master's doing is what Xehanort was doing, but to like the 10th power. Like leveled up. If I were to guess, I still think it's something along those lines. Maybe the black box doesn't trigger it itself, but I think the black box pays into it, for lack of a better term, or bleeds into it. Let's check this out. Checking my notes. Let's see. And I guess one thing I'd bring up is I think it's more likely that the box unleashes something as opposed to seals something, if that makes sense. Again, it's tough to guess what's in that box. I do think it's a world-triggering singularity type event that's triggered upon opening it. But as for what's physically in there, could be the Master's body. It could be the Master's Keyblade, right? Oh, that's one I didn't really talk much about. That maybe the Master's Keyblade is in there. We ever think of that? Right? Because No Name isn't his. He doesn't really have any ownership over it. And No Name. Like, he doesn't care for it. I wouldn't say he doesn't care for it. I would say he doesn't feel ownership over it. Lushu does. He lusts for it. But yeah, could be the Master's Keyblade in there. For all we know, Key Super. Could be like Key of I was going to say Key of Death, but no, the key that's what means death. Could be that it summons a Keyblade from above, maybe like an anti-Keyblade or something. I don't know. I'm just spitballing at this point. We've reached the end. I want to thank you all for hanging out. We're going to keep the lodge moving. I know I don't have my full-blown internet back yet, but I'm going to be making theory videos. I'm going to be doing these podcasts. The productivity won't be as much as maybe we're used to, and the output of content may not be as much as we're used to, but I promise you, once I get this full-blown internet back, we're going full force. I definitely want to do a big return stream. I think it'll happen just in time because we're coming up on the lodge's 4-year anniversary. In 2 weeks, it'll be the lodge's 4-year anniversary. So let's pray I got my full-blown Wi-Fi back by then so I can do a big celebration stream, 4 years of the lodge. But anyway, it's enough of me yapping. Much love to all of you. Much love to all the sages. Thank you again for coming out. It's good to be back. And hey, you all be good out there. Be good to yourselves and each other. And I will see all of you sickos and normies next time.